Hello and welcome to our second lecture for Cultural Perspectives Online. I'm Dr. Evvie Smith, and our topic for this week, well, it's our first major topic, so that's why I've got topic one. It's about modernity. So we need to think about where we are today in society and how we got here. And in this period called modernity, a lot of changes had actually occurred. So we're going to look at some of those changes later on in this lecture. But to start with, I want you to think about what modernity is, how we can understand it, what does it refer to, what does it actually mean. So modernity was a period in history, okay? With history, we break history into particular periods, usually based on key events that have happened in that period. So the period that we're actually referring to with modernity is largely from the 1700s through to around 1970. So it's late 1700s, and it's about a 200-year period where, major events happened in the world, and major changes happened quite rapidly, and really changed the face and the culture of most societies across the world, how we thought about work, how we thought about education, how we thought about finance and economics, how we thought about living. So we're going to look at this period and those changes that occurred to make us understand where we are today in contemporary history and contemporary society. So we're also going to look at postmodernism, all right, which is a term that is used to describe the period from 1970 onwards to where we are today. So let's have a look at what modernity means. So modernity means, well, it's a result of a range of technological and cultural factors coming together in a way that facilitated an important break from what came before. So what that means is there is a clear delineation or a demarcation from what was, from how life was, say, early 1700s to the late 1700s. So it was a drastic change, development, and what that meant for people is that their whole way of life was altered, okay? So it was a drastic difference from what came before. Now, it is crucial in developing an understanding of our culture today. So in order to understand where we are, we have to know what came before. And so the major change of modernity was this idea a movement from traditional societies through to modern societies or modernity. So traditional societies were characterized quite differently from modern societies, and they operated in different ways. So traditional societies were often smaller societies. They were very close-knit, which means that a lot of people knew each other, a lot of people worked together to create, say, produce to eat. They only created enough food that was essential. They bartered and traded goods. So small, close-knit communities, whereas in modernity, if you think about our world kind of today or even 100 years ago still, they are larger communities based on interdependence, not emotional connections. So there are so many people now in such small spaces that we really don't even know our neighbours anymore. It's I guess a lot more impersonal. It's not close-knit. There's a lot of people living in high-rise units, apartments, and not really kind of knowing who their neighbours are, or having familial ties in that sense, like older traditional societies had. So closely regulated. So smaller societies, people knew everyone's business. People knew what you were doing, what you should be doing. So they were easier to regulate. And in modern society, we have this idea of the growth of concepts such as liberty, freedom, free speech, all of those kind of ideas. So less regulation, more freedom to express one's ideas. And so third section here, if you look in traditional societies in the left category, we've got organised on the basis of seasonal change. And modernity is organised on the basis of the use of clocks. So in traditional societies, a lot of the times there was a heavy kind of idea about religion, about if people's crops were not growing, it was seasonal, we could grow things in this time but not in that time. But if this crop didn't grow during this period, it's this idea about being punished from, say, God or You know, it went through the cycle of seasons, and life was about, you know, big, broad periods. Whereas with modernity, this idea about clocks came into play. So we now are heavily regulated by time, by hours, by minutes, and by seconds. And so we don't really think about broad periods of summer, autumn, winter, spring. We think about kind of second to second and day to day. Also, in terms of traditional societies, power was in the hands of many people. But in modern society, lots of power in the hands of very few. So we had a high, you know, we think about prime ministers, presidents, very wealthy, rich elites. They represent a very small portion of our population. So there is a fundamental shift in the way in which we organise our society and what it means to be part of a society. So modernity is actually quite a complex idea, all right? So according to Ironman, 1992, the idea of modernity is an attempt to come to grips with the meaning and significance of the effects of industrialization, urbanization, and political democracy on essentially rural and autocratic societies. Now, you need to think about, I've highlighted there the idea of meaning and significance. So what we do in culture and sociology is that we look at meaning making. And so every event, every relationship, every connection we have with someone is producing meaning. We're active participants in meaning making. And so we put value and significance on certain items, objects, relationships, ideas over others. Okay, so through industrialization, urbanization, this brings about new meanings and new relationships and new significance that we place on particular things, okay, in life. So we'll think about this in a second later on, but what changed in modernity? So we have some key ideas, and these major changes included industrialization, which is really the rise of industry and factories. Okay, so that's about, you know, business owners having factories to produce certain goods, metals, you know, then being able to sell those products. So it was really about, you know, putting a lot of people in large factories and large buildings. And what that did was, you know, it changed the way of the workforce. It was often quite bad conditions that people would work in. And it was also kind of quite bad for people's health. So a lot of workers would work 10-hour days. There was no such thing as an 8-hour day. Often children were put to work as well because they had smaller hands. And so those smaller hands could help them to get into parts of the machinery that were difficult to get into by adults. So people will work long hours in very hot conditions, very poor hygiene conditions as well. So industrialization is basically those big smokestacks you'd see in the images, the big, you know, if you think about changes to society and culture, about pollution, ways of life, ways of living, quality of life as well. We've also got here urbanization, so people moving from farms to cities, and what this is what we call the push and pull factors. So people will move from rural areas, so agrarian culture, outback, you know, sort of farming societies into city centres, and so and they would go there often in search for work. Okay, and because this was moving towards a dominant way of living in a lot of people in very small confined spaces. So if you think about urbanization as the movement from movement of people from countries to really city centres in search of work. Secularization, and this is people increasingly seeking answers from science rather than church. So there was a movement away from church. That is how we can understand this concept. It was a concept that, you know, people started to think about science, reason, and evidence rather than thinking about God or religion or faith or deities or spirituality as being the answer to everything. Okay, so we started to look at different forms of understanding. Democracy, okay, so democracy is the rule by the people rather than the aristocracy. But I want you guys to think about this word democracy and whether democracy really exists in our current world. Okay, so think about, are there problems with this system? Is it a better system? than what came before. Aristocracy was a rule of largely royals, elites over, say, peasants, and there was a really clear class distinction between those people. Democracy is about people electing other people to represent them in a government situation or by ruling group in a society, and it's supposed to be equal in a sense. And capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system based on the production of goods for profit. So it's largely about mass profits. It's linked to industrialization and urbanization. It's about free markets where people can sell products and the market actually determines the price of those products. People can actually have the right to free enterprise or private enterprise free of government control. And also, yes, it's about mass profits and therefore the exploitation and alienation of workers. So if you think about Karl Marx, there is a great theorist to talk about in terms of capitalism and that struggle between the workers, the proletariat, and the elite, which is what he calls the bourgeoisie. And that is a theory of class conflict. Or conflict theory, sorry. So what does modernity mean for us? So I want you to think about this coming into our tutorial this week about what are some basic differences between our everyday lives today and those people living in pre-modern times. And I've got some images here, a juxtaposition, and I want you to think about these two images in a response and bring a response to our class this week. I'd love to hear what you've got, some ideas, just some dot points, and we can discuss that on Monday. So we live in modernity, okay? So have a think about these 5 big changes before our class and look at the world around you, okay? So say as you travel home or while you're watching TV, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, RuPaul's Drag Race, Kim Kardashian or Keeping Up with the Kardashians, or a David Attenborough documentary. And I want you to think about these changes, okay? Think about what you see, what comes to you, look beneath the surface, okay? Or you could even just use the internet. So just a summary about 5 major changes. We've got industrialization, urbanization, secularization, democracy, and capitalism, okay? So industrialization is about working, how things are made. Urbanization is about where we lived. Secularization is what we believed. Democracy is about who was in charge and how things were decided. And capitalism is about goods, services, and the buying and selling of things. So I want you to think about those things as being all connected. That's why I had them in a circle there for you. I've also got an image up the top here of Charlie Chaplin, who was obviously a silent film actor. And I want you to think about, if you Google some of his films on YouTube, think about how they represent in this time period some of those changes we just went through. We can also discuss that in class. So 5 major changes we've looked at are linked to and influenced by one another. They are interconnected. And further, they all contribute to how we live and think today. And no other period produced such extensive and long-lasting changes as modernity. So where are we now? We're at this idea about postmodernism, okay? And so postmodernism really is about no kind of logical, linear thought process. Postmodernism is about challenging ideas, traditional notions. It's about thinking about the world in a different way. And so you can see here some of these images that do this through memes, through pop art, through architecture, through books, all sorts of things. So take a look at those and, think about why are they postmodern? What makes them that way? So postmodernism refers to a way of thinking that questions the big ideas of modernity. And as Kevin Hart 2004 puts it, postmodernism is an attitude of suspicion towards the modern. And why? Because the modern always appeals to a meta-narrative of some kind, something that overarches all human activities and serves to guide them. And so meta-narratives are stories or ideas that we use to make sense of the world. And so these ideas about these include ideas about gender, race, sexuality, social class, religion, and so forth. And so these topics will come up throughout this course, and you'll see them kind of interlock and interlink with one another. So postmodernism is no logical thought, no kind of set way of thinking. It's about challenging, it's about resistance, it's about kind of questioning and always asking why. Why do we do things? And so not just taking things on face value or for granted, but really thinking about why and challenging them. So we are exploring and questioning many of these topics or meta-narratives during the rest of this term. So postmodernism thought, don't worry if it seems difficult and confusing to understand. If you can get the basic ideas, that is all you need to know, okay? And this will build as you go through your studies in your arts degree or whatever degree you might go on to do at the university. But a few key points for you are that nothing is certain. There is no truth that we're trying to seek. Binaries are challenged, so not just you're either good or you're evil, you're a man or a woman or a hero or a villain, you can be something in between those things as well. And the idea of progress is questioned. It's not always about improving societies and getting better with technology. Sometimes, yes, there are positives, but there can still also be negatives or things that are problematized via advancements in a sense. So, an overview. I'm sorry, that page went a bit funny then, so we'll have to go back to that tutorial. But this is our reference list if you would like to have a look at that. And thank you for listening to Lecture 2 for Cultural Perspectives Online for Term 2 at the College, Western Sydney University. I'm Dr. Evvie Smith, and I will see you on Monday for our Zoom tutorial at 6 p.m. Thank you.